everyone to another episode. My name is Maria Mejia.
And I'm David Potocki.
We are the co-founders of Your Financial Success Matrix, where we close the gap between being simply CRA compliant and growing a successful business.
Welcome, everybody. And you know what? I've decided I'm going to call Maria the imported accountant.
But why, David?
But why? Of course.
But why?
Well, for those of you who don't know, Maria is actually an American. Oh, I know. Don't worry.
Don't switch
She's
the channel.
an imported American. She loved it so much up here that she actually married somebody from Canada. That's how much she loved the Canadian culture. But what makes that really awesome, though, is that not only is she an accountant, but she knows the tax laws in 2 countries.
It becomes very helpful when I got to argue with people and say, like, maybe in America you can get away with it, but not in Canada. And you know what? Since we're coming up with names, David here is such a dad joke kind of guy. So from now on, he is going to be called David the Panastic Potocki because he does lots of puns and he thinks he's so fantastic. He is a father, so he has a whole arsenal of dad jokes.
Yes, well, I slip them in from time to time, and yes, I have 4 wonderful kids ranging a great number of years. So I've had plenty. In fact, I've had decades of experience being the dad joke kind of guy. But let's get back to business today. So last episode we talked about starting the business. What are the very first steps you do when you've come up with that idea? Whether you've been sitting on that idea for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, a couple of years, whatever it is, and we talked about, are you actually filling a gap? Are you filling a need in the area that you want to get into? And then Maria touched on
the accounting side of things. How do you have some kind of software to track your income and your expenses, whether that be, the old-fashioned software called paper and pencil, or the new stuff that's on the internet, QuickBooks, Xero, FreshBooks, all of that fun stuff.
Right. The importance of that, make sure that you're set up. I mean, if there's, aside from doing a business plan of some sort, again, it doesn't need to be a chapter book for a business plan, but if you've got some stuff written down, one of the first things that you need to do, again, is your idea going to be filling a need? And make sure that you have some sort of record keeping from the very beginning. Because believe me, once you get busier, once you get further into it, you are not going to be remembering what happened 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, 12 months ago when you need to do your taxes. And this question though, Maria, is it important to do your taxes every year?
It is very important. If you've listened last time, David gave the example of when he did at one point in his life become behind on his business taxes. The CRA froze his accounts. So those threatening emails that you may or may not get from the CRA saying if you don't file a certain return or if you don't pay by a certain date, that they will go through and freeze your accounts and then take any money that they feel necessary.
Right, so learn from the hard lesson that I learned from. So this week we're going to talk about sort of the next steps, right? You've got the idea, you've decided on how you're going to start your record keeping. So what is next? Well, the next step is the idea that you have, the business idea that you have. How are you going to be different than everybody else? What sets you apart? Do you think that's important, Maria?
Yeah, because, in our little town here, we have, I think, 5 or 6 different pizza places. So, some of them are really cheap, some of them are the more high end, but each of them have to find a way to distinguish themselves. So, if all of them are the same, it really wouldn't matter which pizza place we went to. So, if your business is the same as the pizza place down the street or even the pizza place in the next town over, why would someone buy from you instead of from the already established one?
The point you made there, Maria, if you are going to go into a business that already has established players, if you aren't setting yourself apart, what you're actually doing is you're trying to steal a little piece of everybody's pie, which is extremely difficult. Because if you deliver the same product, the same service as an already well-established business, then why would somebody want to try you? Yeah, and people go, well, let's use the pizza, for example. I'm going to throw a coupon out there, half price pizza. People go, great, the pizza's half price. And then they buy it, they go, you know what, the service, the quality, all that was pretty much the same. And then the next time they go around, they go, well, I can either buy from you for the same price, or I could buy from the big box pizza places, or for the same price, or maybe even a little bit cheaper because they have the quantity in buying products and so on. So you're back to square one where you're not separating yourself. Now, so that's the big question you have to ask yourself. What separates you, or what are you going to do different? How are you going to innovate your business so that you stand apart from everybody else? And don't be scared of that word innovate. It doesn't mean that you have to get technology involved. I mean, if you can, if you got an app that you can release and all that kind of stuff, by all means, but that's not really what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is how can you deliver your service or product in a way that is difficult to copy, or people aren't even going to be, your competition isn't even going to think about it. So I've been working with this chiropractic client recently. In fact, I talked about, this is what I tell all the businesses that I work with when it comes to this part of the coaching session. Forget everything you know about being a chiropractor, or how you deliver the service, or how you deliver pizza, all the services. So forget all that and figure out what can you do different. Just because it's always been done the same way in the past doesn't mean that that's the best and only way to do it. So I want you to kind of forget everything that you know and go, okay, how can I deliver this differently? And with the chiropractic clinic, what we were able to come up with initially was the intake. So when a patient arrives there, they're going to come on in, they're going to be greeted by the admin person, but instead of the admin person being behind the desk, the person is going to be in front, so it's going to be more of a personal welcoming. They're going to have an iPad with them so they can put the information in there. When they put the information in there, it will then alert the team member in the back that their client is here and that they're ready. And then they'll sit down the guest, the patient/guest, sit them down comfortably, and then they'll ask them if they want a refreshment. Offer them water or coffee or a cappuccino, so they could be nice and comfortable sitting, waiting for their appointment. So that came up by us sitting down and going, what is everybody doing, and what's the traditional way, but what can we do different than everybody else? So that's why we came up with that experience.
It kind of reminds me of, what is the difference between an Apple computer and a Microsoft computer? Not only is, the look different, but sometimes the feel, the interface can be different, as well as the customer service. We see those Apple stores, they're all, really fancy, nice, clean, and they kind of look futuristic compared to like a Microsoft, their service, where you can kind of get their service from just about anywhere. So having that uniqueness, what makes you different from Joe Blow who's doing the same service down the street. Another thing that we've talked about before is maybe going to your customers that you already have and maybe purchasing gift cards. That way it can build up that rapport with them. And if you keep them in the loop with like, oh, I'm buying gift cards from you and I'm going to be giving them to other clients of mine, or using them in advertisements or in maybe pop-up shops that I go to, keeping them in the loop, that whereas other vendors might not do that with them.
Right. Like a great example, if you were a lawn cutting, taking Maria's gift card example, if you wanted to be different, you want to innovate your business, instead of just cutting the grass, right? I mean, that's the main service. So what else can you add to that? So we'll build on what Maria said. So if you go to a home and garden center, a local one, Home Depot and all that, maybe not the best idea, but if you can go to a locally owned garden center and you go in there and you talk to them, okay, I've got, 20 clients, I like to buy $25 gift cards for each of these. Is it possible to get a little bit of a break because I'm buying so much, right? Potentially they'll give it to you and you explain to them why you're doing it, that you want to give this to each of your clients sort of as a thank you to bring you on board. Now you've entered into sort of a referral relationship with the garden center, because now these 25 clients that you give the gift cards to, they're likely going to come in and buy flowers or annuals or even just an ornament. But now they've gained 25 potentially new clients by joining the relationship with you. So don't you think that there's two pros from that? Your clients are going to be super happy with you because you've now given them $50 or $25 to help them beautify their outside, and now you've also given the client or the garden center an opportunity to refer you, because you know that that you're giving them 25 new potential customers, so they'll be more likely to refer to you when the time comes when someone's asking for, do you know anyone that does lawn maintenance?
Yep, and we call that building a joint venture. Now, sometimes people think of joint ventures as being like not a legal, but like a formal agreement between two businesses. But it can be informal, just like that, just buying gift cards and giving them to your clients. That's a joint venture that you have with this other business. Mm-hmm. So another thing that, startup businesses, I know we talked about last time about, having that bookkeeping software set up so you can start keeping track of things. And David asked me a question the other day that I kind of want to elaborate a bit more upon, was like, what accounts should people be using when it comes to tracking their expenses?
Wait. So not all you don't just use it right out of the box kind of thing? Sorry, I got to put that in air quotes, out of the box, because rarely can you buy software out of a box anymore. It's always on the cloud for the most part. So you just can't use, or you shouldn't just use the accounts that are already on there?
No, so those accounts are kind of meant to be starting points, kind of a push-off point, since every business is different. So for the lawn maintenance people, their expenses are going to be different than a lawyer's expenses, or even a dentist or a business coach. You're not going to have it as many.
Do you know a good business coach?
I think I might know one or two.
One or two? You know somebody else? Oh boy. Continue, Maria.
So let's go back to our lawn maintenance fellow here. The basic accounts that you'll see on tax statements are, rental, advertisement, office supplies, maybe if they have to buy their machines. Those are, very basic accounts that everybody can use, but they will also have specialized ones, such as the cost of goods sold, or the things that they use in their lawn maintenance. So like the seed, maybe the gas for the lawn mowers, maybe those, the string that you put in weed whackers. I don't know what those are called, but those would be put in with certain specialty.
Don't want to string you along.
Yes, certain specialty supplies for your business. One thing that I come in contact with very commonly with startup businesses is that they either don't have enough accounts. Everything gets pushed into office supplies, or everything gets pushed into advertisements. They don't have enough detail. Like, okay, so this is an advertisement. Well, is it an online advertisement? Is it Facebook? Is it Yelp? Is it Google Ads? Or is this like the paper advertisements, flyers that you put into mailboxes, an ad that you put out in the local newspaper? You need details. That way, when it comes yearly or monthly that you analyze your financial statements, like, okay, so I did online advertisement in July. Did that actually work? Well, at the end of July, I got a lot more clients than when I did the newspaper advertisements in April. So having that detail is very important. But on the other end is having too much detail. So someone could have expenses for, like, okay, Amazon is one account, Facebook's another account for some reason, their Microsoft is another account. Those can all be lumped into one account, office supplies. So knowing the right balance of having enough accounts where when it comes to analyze the financial statements, you have all the correct information there, but not having too much where you're overwhelmed when it comes to looking at your statements.
Well, my head's spinning a little bit here because, there are so many things to consider. So that's would that be a good reason to hire a professional?
For sure.
No, but all seriously, like part of what we do at your financial success matrix is come up. We figure out your FS matrix or your financial success matrix, and the best way to do that is to make sure that the accounts are set up in such a way that you can easily run reports and find out what the trends are happening. As Maria was saying there, like if you don't track it, you can't manage it. So if everything's either lumped into one big advertising account, then you're not sure what's working. Let's say that this month you spent $1,000 on advertising and you generated 20 leads. Well, where did those leads come from? If you don't know where the leads come from, because if you've got newspaper and you've got your AdWords and you've used Facebook and you were in a local magazine. So let's say there's 4 different ways that you spent that $1,000. Then how do you know which one to pour more money onto? If you found it, if those were broken down and you found out, well, you spent, $500 on AdWords and that's where your 18 of your 20 leads came from, then I would be saying, well, how about we spend $1,000 on AdWords and let's not worry about the magazine because the magazine didn't give you any leads. So now you can pour gasoline on the ones that are actually working. But the only way you can do that is by
Tracking it all.
properly, right?
Properly, for sure. And, as David said, if you don't know or if it's overwhelming to you, go to a professional. Ask them. Some might have even already a list that they can give you for free of, very common accounts for your industry specifically. And even though it might seem overwhelming, you run a business now. You have to do the work to keep that business running. I'm sure David has the experience of raising children. It's not easy. You don't just coast doing it, be like, hey, here's food, go to bed, here's a bed, and they, grow up amazing human beings, which I'm sure your children are because you are. But, it's lots of work. It's hard work. And so the same goes with your business. It's a separate entity that you have to raise to be healthy and to grow.
But there's one huge, massive difference that I'm going to say here. Kids don't come with a handbook or rules. But when it comes to building a business, yes, there's 1.5 million books out there on building a business. But the long and short of it, there are rules and there are proven systems and strategies that if you follow them, guess what? Your business is going to grow and succeed, right? So what we're trying to tell you here is if you follow the tips and the hacks that we give you, then you're going to be able to avoid a lot of the mistakes that young entrepreneurs or new entrepreneurs make. I made tons of mistakes in my past, and that's why I'm here trying to tell you that there's way different ways of doing things, way different ways. Wow, that was impressive there.
Good English.
Good English. I don't know, was that Canadian or American?
I think that was Canadian. I'm not going to take that.
So the point is that there are ways, there are proven strategies and techniques that you use, but Maria hit it on the head. You've got to do the work. Let's put that in air quotes. Gotta do the work. I know that's not great English, but the point is, if you do the work and you follow the techniques and the strategies that we're sharing, you are going to be successful.
And not only that, write it all down. Once you've written something down, welcome to the 5% Club. After all, that's who we are.
Well, that's what we're all about. Remember, like we're trying to help you. You know, Maria and I have got years and years of experience. We want to give back. We want to help you avoid the pitfalls. We want you to join us in the 5% Club so that you can enjoy the successes that we are enjoying.
So, in summary, kind of combining last episode and this episode on, starting your business, validate the idea of your business. Even though you've been sitting on it, you shared it with your friends and family and they said it's awesome, do your market research. Make sure that there's a market out there for the service that you have. Then find some kind of tracking software. That can be the old-fashioned paper pencil that you can buy at the American Office Max. David was hounding me on that for the past week.
I believe we call it Staples.
Staples. Just go to Staples and get yourself an old-fashioned paper and pencil tracking thing. Or, Excel or online software.
Right, and then we got to make sure, how are you going to deliver the product or service? How are you going to innovate? You have to create the why are people going to buy from you. Again, this is massive. You don't want to fall right into the same category as everybody else. You either 10 times what you're already doing, or you figure out a different way to deliver the product or service in such a way that's unique to you, and it's either impossible or very difficult for your competition to copy. And then you got to make sure that you're tracking, so the accounts are set up properly. As Maria said, you can consult a professional, you can hire a professional, or you can do some research online. But the point is, if you want to be successful, this is part of the handbook or the techniques, you need to track what you're doing. If you don't track it, you can't manage it.
And finally, when it comes time that you want to, spread your wings and go out there and sell your stuff, register, either that being just a plain name registration and you'll file everything on your personal tax return, or incorporate. It takes a bit more effort, and definitely consult a professional when it comes to incorporating your business. But looking at, what liabilities you might have in your specific industry, whether you need extra insurance and liabilities, or if, basic insurance will be enough.
Right. And, we are now available on pretty much every podcast streaming out there. So if you can rate us or share us with share the podcast, well, which is us. I mean, this is almost not quite a baby of ours, but this is part of us. Our heart and soul has gone into this. So if you want to share this with a business owner or someone who's thinking about transitioning into a business, that would be fantastic.
And leave comments, whether you agree or disagree with us, we want to know. Share with us your thoughts. Maybe if you have some topics or some questions that you have that you want us to touch upon, let us know. We want to help you and answer any questions that you have.
And so this is the imported accountant.
And this is the...
I believe it was Panastic business coach.
The Panastic business coach.
She came up with it. I don't know. I'm just helping her remember.
I can't remember.
Anyways, until next time.
We'll see you next time.